Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the Word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Hebrews 11:3. For most forms of being with sentience, a drop into space-time through an extra-dimensional transfer is shocking. It could be a splashdown into a cold world, one with an ecosphere location and relativistic time disconforming to prior experience. They sometimes seem out of phase before quantification adjustments to quark matrix force structures banning time quanta. Right. I think so too, Yvette. There's nothing like a blind date with a mystery world. Yvette and I finished drinking coffee at Collingswood Plaza and returned to work on the library reconstruction project commissioned by Abbott Waden. Yvette wanted to stay in free parsecs beyond universal corporate influence to avoid recapture and dragooning into a shelf-life status. She was too happy to accompany me to Collingswood to invest some personal time volunteering for good works. Her planet of origin, Gleebeer, is under constant corporate surveillance. Since they'd invested a lot of corporate assets in making her a valuable product, they would be spending more trying to get her back. She was an effective advertising symbol. Human trafficking is one of the under-the-table trades of galactic corporate networks. Some of the off-the-grid planets were growing quite the crop of humanoids for sex and body part shops. Another reason for Yvette to lend a hand on the makeover of the venerable Temple of God in Collingswood. A few days after arriving on Collingswood, we were approached by one Grand Master Conspirant Solobinsk of Temprova, a world hitherto unknown to Yvette or me. Through the classical shadow of time emerged a story of a singular missing widget. Collingswood's latest library, Temple Renewal, was an artful scheme. The aesthetic feeling of living structure gradually returned with polish and purpose, replacing the existing photon-absorbent exterior coating with pseudo-stones, creating increased energy cogeneration. Ambient temperature pseudo-stones are hollow and filled with matter lifted up by actuator nanopumps to the top of the temple, powered by an electromagnetic field engine stimulated with sunlight. The temple is shaped like an inverted pyramid hourglass and releases mass during hours of darkness to flow down into the gravity well to low-speed turbine intakes generating power. In the dark gravity fall phase, the flow of matter is given an electric charge, becoming electromagnetic, creating a strong phased magnetic field in the particulate mass to increased energy generation in the flow. A compound electromagnetic field power generation matrix also exploits the charge mass switched on and off flowing through a circular gear at the narrow point between pyramids. Yvette and I watched the library temple flowing through its diurnal energy generation cycle from the base of the 500-foot-tall structure. Yvette wore a net set of multi-vision selector corneas provided by the brothers. Looking as lovely as ever, she said, "The infrared flow of energy produced in 3 different ways is beautiful to observe." "I would like to see that myself, Yvette, and you can switch between vision modes with willed thought, just like that." "Uh-huh. The corneal microsensors detect relevant thought alpha waves and react." A stranger broke away from a cluster of souls touring the temple grounds and walked over to us. He wore a drab gray Kevtech hooded robe and Fastech footwear. When he approached us, he stopped to say, "Dr. Voivoda, I am Grand Master Conspirant Solobinsk of the dappled fine planet Temprova." I saw that Grand Master Solobinsk was tall and thin. Perhaps he had spent decades studying schematic diagrams and skipping lunch. He continued speaking. "Temprova was the secret home of the Universal Widget. It was in my care with Higgs Masons until it turned up missing from the Higgs Masonic Temple Museum of Widgets last Thursday." Yvette asked, "Mr. Solobinsk, what kind of Thursday do you have on Temprova relative to us here at Collingswood? That is, with space-time relativity, when would you say that Thursday was? And where was it in the temporal order in regard to the universe field in itself?" "Conspiron, let me introduce you to my bosom friend, Yvette." We asked him to join us for a fat bean sprout and protein paste on fresh rye bread with honey mustard sandwich at our table. He demurred and smiled, looking as interested in food as the IRA faster Bobby Sands. He pulled up a chair and began to relate his tale of woe about a missing widget. A cool breeze arrived from the hill. Yvette asked Solobinsk, "You've traveled quite a distance to discuss your missing widget with us. Why is that?" Yvette was getting a little counterplay with GM Solobinsk. "Temprova is a synthetic world constructed by the Higgs Masons of the galaxy. It is a Higgs Masonic Lodge world, is a clear Dyson sphere for itself, closely surrounding a white dwarf star, providing heat and gravity, energy and cohesion enough for one world as a quantum computer multitask dwelling structure. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's there, often entangled with distant gravitational fields, so we find our world kedging its way about the universe. The Universal Widget compensated for atmospheric add gravitational changes. It will become difficult to to maintain Temprova's ecosphere in balance without the intercession of the wonderful widget. We let Conspiron continue his attempt to sell us on the virtues of the missing Universal Widget. The Dyson sphere is a photon-absorbing electron battery. The exterior appearance for others is purely stealth black body and relativistically wraps around the ambient astrophysical background. Temprova is virtually undetectable and should have been a safe place to keep the Universal Widget. Our Thursday is a local Thursday, using a near-universal atomic chronometer for scheduling the traditional 24-hour-a-day temporal template within a Earth orbital cycle recorded in history as approximately 365 days. Traditions are especially important to keep when there are no stars for one planet to orbit. On Temprova, in regard to our own white dwarf star, there's perpetual now, with all space-time positions in relation to the dwarf star fulfilled. A warp speed in space-time to reach Collingswood before the today space-time tide receded and I was left in oblivion. The Thursday event happened in relation to Collingswood time. It was just close enough that I reached you and Mr. Voivoda without having recovered the Universal Widget. You believe in retrocausality, then? Yes, Dr. Voivoda, one can be optimistic without undue harm to one's interests. Retrocausality is a good theory that creates a lot of problems. It would require more energy to reverse a complex anisotropic space-time field than was ever used to create it. Ending up with more energy than exists in the entire universe to retrocause the universe would be comparable to compiling a sum of 100, then subtracting 150 from 100, leaving a remainder of 50. Improbable. Sure, yet the reversing order of time to change the past can be quite expensive in terms of energy. What is so wonderful about the Universal Widget, Mr. Solobinsk? Is it smaller than a bread box, besides being the Platonic universal generalized form of all widgets? Yvette added, is it the mother of all widgets? Conspiron was a ready salesman. The Universal Widget's origin is shrouded in mystery. It is the widget of widgets. Its form changes such that it becomes what it is without evolving from what it was. Simultaneously, it is the producer, product and extemporal quantum shape of actualized potential necessary to provide solutions to problems. I asked him, sounds like a handy thing to have about, Mr. Solobinsk. If your widget is so sharp, why haven't I seen one for sale around the galaxy? You have encountered derivative manufacturers of the widget in various forms, Dr. Voivoda, without recognizing the parent widget. It is the producer of ideas developed into product and sale, not the definite articles for sale in themselves. The widget itself never leaves Temprova and was never absent until Thursday. Yvette moved a fallen lock of hair from her forehead and asked, and you want help from Patrick in finding that special trinket that could be anywhere in the universe by now and in no particular form? I decided then not to bother asking for a description of the missing widget. Precisely, Dr. Yvette, for reasonable compensation, of course. I wanted to know, and what would that be? Anything you wish from the Universal Widget. Not 3 wishes, Mr. Solobinsk? Yes, if you wish, 3 wishes of the Universal Widget. I agreed. I could use 3 wishes. That sounds acceptable. Would you change your mind and join us for a sandwich, a glass of liquid nutrition? A bowl of sweet grass would be excellent, please. That would set a precedent for human omnivores. You eat grass? Yes, it's infused into my DNA. The survivors of biodiversity collapse of my planet of origin, Yuzkov, had to adapt to a social world hollowed out by globalist shepherds and billions of proles yearning for positive sensory feedback. We innovated a redesign of consumer objects for themselves, enabling every prole to satisfy his or its energy input desire with equal satisfaction. We were all converted with retro bioengineering to eat bluegrass, with 1 redesigned and 3 new stomachs. Later, I exfiltrated the Higgs Masonic Lodge of Temprova, where one had made a flyby of our star system. This is not tobacco I am chewing. It is my cud. The immediate challenge was to say something with grace that didn't sound condescending. He might be sensitive about what others thought about his chewing the cud. I wager it's grass pelts. Dr. Voivoda, if grass pelts, dried with low roasted forms of grass, which can be dried and preserved. The better sweet grass is a blend of euphoric stimulants and celluloid. I wasn't really so interested in the grass encyclopedia entry. It was like as not a build-up of nanobot mass replacement of lifespan expired bioform. It needed infinitesimal and fractalized perceptions before it agrees its mechanical soul. All right, about the widget. With computer-aided design and manufacturing, how does an individual unit differ itself from the potential of any artificial intelligence-guided manufacturing system to accrete a new or necessary product, Mr. Solobinsk? Before leaving her chair at the table at the base of the pyramid and walking off toward a lane between temples, Yvette said, Pat, I know where I can cut a fresh lawn for a bowl of sweet grass. I shall return. Solobinsk continued speaking about the object widget motivating his journey to see us at Collingswood. Our wonderful widget is a nexus for a quantum computer harmonic actualizer. It may draw upon limited resources of the non-steady state quantum universe to form steady state quantum entanglements that are in temporal objects of spacetime. So I asked him, what would happen if there were two of these universal widgets simultaneously calling upon all of the content of the non-steady state quantum universe to become some particular object? Interesting idea, Voivoda. I hadn't thought about it. There's only one known universal widget. In a mirrored universe with reverse chirality and opposite antimatter base with an anti-universal widget disappears one anti-Higgs Masonic lodge to reappear in this universe with a Higgs field. The potential for context to the two widgets might be explosive.